Before you start working with a virtual assistant, test their skills. And here's the thing that I noticed. A true expert will not mind showcasing their ability. Even me, look, I worked in sales for a long time. If someone told me, hey, we're gonna have a role play on sales, I'd be like, all right, let's do it. And today I'm going to give you 10 practical tests that you can give to your virtual assistant for different roles. I'm going to give you a role and the exact test you can use to see if they are the right person for your company. Before you start working with a virtual assistant, test their skills. And here's why. A virtual assistant can actually impress you with their resume and with great interview skills. And trust me, we've seen it all. We at our company, Hire Train VA, we hire and we train virtual assistants for other companies, and we interview hundreds of candidates to only select a handful of them. And a big reason why we reject candidates is because the way they present themselves at the interview or at the resume, and they have perfect resumes, perfect interviews, it's not the same as when we put them to a little test. And this is a big eye-opening for us. And a lot of people, when they hire a virtual assistant, they hire with their emotion. They say they have a great resume, they have a wonderful interview, you are the right person for the job. And then that virtual assistant or employee, it's not exclusive to just VAs, that team member starts working for you and you get disappointed. So let's see what you can do better as a leader to make sure you get better people on board. Welcome to another episode of the show Built with VAs. I'm your host, Valentina Brega, and today I'm going to give you 10 practical tests that you can give to your virtual assistant for different roles. I'm going to give you a role and the exact test you can use to see if they are the right person for your company. Let's roll. So before we go into the actual tests, I want you to keep in mind that you have to be fair. The tests don't have to be time consuming. If you're putting the virtual assistant through a lot of hoops they have to jump through, you might have to compensate for their time. And remember one thing, the best virtual assistants, the A players, they have options. So in order for you to get the best talent, you have to speak their language. You have to understand them. So don't put them to a test that is very lengthy. You can still have a couple of minutes to test their knowledge, and that will give you an idea whether or not this is the right person for your company. Okay, so let's go with the first one. Let's say you're hiring a salesperson, and this is something that we do. These are the tests that we run at Hire Train VA when we hire salespeople. In this case, you can have a role play with a VA where you are a customer and you can be an angry customer. I would actually encourage you to be an angry customer and see how your salesperson handles that. When we hire virtual assistant for roles such as cold callers or any phone service or follow-ups or any type of lead interaction, we actually give them a role play where we are an angry customer. And we don't want to be mean, but the reason for that is because we want to see how the virtual assistant reacts being in an uncomfortable situation. We don't expect the virtual assistants to be perfect. No one is perfect. That's why we have training. When it comes to training, trust me, the majority of the virtual assistants have been trained wrong, but that's a completely different topic. We can talk about this in a different episode. So don't put too much pressure on something that can be trained. What I'm really curious to see when we role play is how they handle being in an uncomfortable situation. I don't want them to hang up the phone. I don't want them to lose control. I don't want them to not be seen as an expert or as an authority and start, having a shaky voice or just completely losing control. These are the attributes that I want to see in a good salesperson. You can never train someone for 100% of the scenarios that you're going to run into, but the basis has to stay the same. No matter what you run into, you need to land on your feet. So this is something that we do. Give them a role play, be an angry customer, see how they react, and that will give you a better understanding if you want that person to sell your product or service. All right. Number 2, social media. This is what we do for social media. You can do something very simple right at the interview. You can pull up a profile. It can be maybe your social media profile, your Instagram, your YouTube, your Facebook, whatever it is. And then ask your virtual assistant, okay, based on what you're seeing right now, what would you do differently? What do you like about this? What don't you like about this? And why? And then notice how that person answers the question. And to keep it fair to all virtual assistants, you want to ask the exact same questions, the exact same scenario to everyone, because you want to compare apples to apples, basically. So a good expert, when you show this a social media profile, a good expert will know exactly what you need to do and what you don't need to do. So try to steer clear of superficial answers. For example, someone might say, well, you don't have a lot of followers. I will increase the number of followers. Okay, how? Doing what? What actions would you take? Well, we need to post more more, post what? So you see, like, if I have to ask for more information, this is not the right person for me. So instead, what I want to see is I want somebody confident to come and say, okay, I don't understand your target audience. Are you speaking to homeowners or are you speaking to other real estate agents? Who do you make content for? Who are you speaking with? Okay. I don't see an aesthetic of it's all like very, it's all scattered. I don't see an aesthetic. I don't see a cohesive theme about this. You talk only about business. I don't see anything about your family. I don't know anything about you as a human being that I can relate to, that I can connect with. You don't have any reels. Your reels don't have captions. A lot of people watch the reels without any sound. You still want them to understand the message. Let me see your analytics. Let me see how often do you post? When do you post? Do you understand? Like, a true expert will know all of that information and will be able to guide you even if it's at an interview. And that's when I know that this person's like, okay, you know what? I'm willing to give it a try. If you can do this for me, what you just said here, if you have that eye, if you have that analytical mind, I want that in my company. So this is the test that I would use for social media. But again, understand what you're hiring for. Maybe you don't need somebody to analyze your social media. Maybe you just need somebody to design something for you. Well, then give them a little task to design or show them a design and ask them, what do you like about it? What do you don't like about it? And see how they think, see the logic. Okay, number 3, video editing. So it took us a long time to find a good video editor. And we posted ads. There were so many applications. Our inbox was flooded with applications. And of course, everybody sent us their portfolios and their portfolios looked great. And we had interviews with them. It was great. The portfolios look good. They say the right thing, all of that stuff. And then we put them to a little test. And the little test for us was, if I send you a short video of myself or our reel, it's a 1-minute video, but I only want you to edit 10 seconds or 20 seconds. I don't want this to take you a long time. I think you could be done with this in 15 minutes. Like whatever you can do in 15 minutes, in 10 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever it is, just kind of how would you use your services on my product, on what I have to offer? And then I can see whether I like the aesthetic or not. Unfortunately, what I saw is a lot of people lie, a lot of straightforward lie in their portfolios, in their resume, in everything. So the people that submitted the test, a lot of them were not even at 10% of what I thought they could do based on their portfolios. So it's very important to test the knowledge. Right now, we have an amazing virtual assistant who is a video editor who not just talks the talks, but also walks the walk. And we love what he's doing. We love the aesthetic. We're in sync with this. And he didn't mind doing this little test. Some people will mind. Some people will say, well, will I be paid for this? It really depends on what you're giving the virtual assistant. And I always say you have to be fair. If you're asking them to edit a longer video, be fair, compensate the VA for their time. If you don't want to do this, maybe just make sure you give them a little task that can be done during the time you're interviewing or, just in a couple of minutes. So it's not too taxing on their time either. Or if they wouldn't perform any task without payment, you can do the same thing that we did for social media. Show them a video and ask them to critique it. What do they like about it? What they don't like about it? What would they change about it? And notice their answers. So here's a couple of good things that a virtual assistant can say when they look at video editing. They will be like, no, this is the wrong music. It doesn't convey the emotion that you're trying to. The music is that's not, this is the wrong angle. The cut are too sharp. There needs to be smooth. And my husband is a videographer. My husband is he owns a video production company. They make a ton of videos for companies, ads and promos and podcasts. And I'll actually leave his website here so you can check it out. But one of the things that he's looking at when he's hiring a video editor, he's looking at the storytelling. We have sometimes videos that they have the right cut, they have the good technique, but there's no soul behind it. It's like an AI did that. And that's not what we need. We need a human being with that mind to tell a story. And sometimes I see beautiful shots, but they're not connected. And that's not something we need. People are emotional beings. So if you're making a video, they need to connect with that in an emotional level, especially if it's a creative video. If it's just a podcast, it's simply just deliver value. But if it's something that needs to speak to people's emotion, you need to have the right audio, you need to have the right cut, you need to have the right storytelling, the right colors. Colors need to be created. This is the kind of information you need from a top video editor. And if you don't get that in an interview, again, depending on what you need, then this might not be the right person for you. Okay, let's move on. Number 4 is executive assistant. This is one of the most common positions that people hire virtual assistants for when they come to work with us at Hire Train VA. They need executive assistants, someone to manage their email, someone to manage their calendars. I actually have a whole video on what exactly executive assistants do, so you can go and check it out. But this is what the test you can give to an executive assistant. We provide a real life scenario scenario. I say, okay, look, you come to work one morning, you open up the email, and there are 600 unread messages. What do you do? How do you tackle them? And you want to see the level of responses they give you. Everyone will tell you, I will create folders. Okay, what kind of folders? Don't be afraid to go deeper. Everyone will tell you, I'll create folders, because everybody knows that. But really, to test the knowledge, okay, what kind of folders will you have? What will their name be? How will you create them? No, so you go a little bit deeper. This is what I would like to see if I hire an executive assistant to manage my email. I would like somebody to say, I want to sit down with you. I will make a list of everything that you're subscribed to. And I will ask you, do you need that subscription? Do you get value from it? Do you want me to delete this? Do you want to just to get the messages, rolled over just once a month? I want to be on the same page, what is important to you, so that I know how to give you value. Because when you hire someone, encourage people to ask you questions. Encourage them to get on the same page with you. I don't want an executive assistant to just manage my email without asking me what is important to me. There are some newsletters that I don't read, a lot of things I'm subscribed to, but there are some newsletters that I get a ton of inspiration from, I get a lot of good value from, that I want to keep them. So I need my virtual assistant, I need my executive assistant to understand that. So in the interview process, this is something that I would pay attention to. Not just create folders, but the logic behind it. And then my virtual assistant can say something like, I will create a folder that says, for Valentina, for CEO, where I will just put the emails there so you can read them. So when you go and open the email, instead of seeing 600 unread messages, which I will sort through them, I want you to only see or to only focus on the 10, 20 that need your immediate attention right now. If I hear that answer, I will give that person a shot, because they're smart, they have critical thinking, they understand me, they understand what it's like working with a busy entrepreneur. So I want that person on my team. Number 5, customer service. How do you test that knowledge? For customer service, we do the same thing as we did for sales. We have a role play. Angry customer wants to cancel subscription, wants to, whatever you have, whatever is relevant for your business. And how does that virtual assistant handle that? You will see how they de-escalate problems. You will see what techniques they're using. One thing I'm looking for when we're hiring someone for customer service is, despite what people think, I don't want them to be overly apologetic. I don't want them to be overly sweet on the phone. I want them to be solution oriented. Of course, I want empathy. I want them to say, oh, I'm so sorry you have to go through this. I completely understand what you're going through. Let me see if I can handle that for you in a very quick manner. Okay. So my goal here is to get it done for you in under 2 minutes. So I just need a couple of information from you so I can get you off real quick and take care of this problem. Sounds good? See how I want people to have assertiveness, and I want them to have that control over the phone, because this is what I expect when I call someone. I actually recently called a service that they double charged me for something and I needed to take care of that. That I could tell on the other end of the line was a virtual assistant. They have an accent, the way they speak, and doing what I'm doing, I already recognize that. But they were overly apologetic. I am so sorry, ma'am, you have to go through this. Like, too verbose, spoke too much, and me as a customer, I'm thinking, please just take care of my problem. I don't have a lot of free time on my hands. Just take care of my problem. So instead of being too sweet, I want them to be more solution oriented. And this is something you can test with your virtual assistant as well. And of course, you can also train them. But ask them a question, see how they handle uncomfortable situations, and just, tell them maybe not to tolerate people who cuss at them, because sometimes working in customer service is not easy. And you get angry customers. And I know I answered the phones for a long time, so I know exactly, I heard everything on the phones. But some people cuss you out, some people yell at you, some people call you names. I don't know where you stand with this, but the way I train my virtual assistant is like, you don't have to accept this, because you can never say the right thing to the wrong person. If they're angry, they would be angry at everyone. It's not something you said. It's not something you did, right? So the way I would train my VA would be like, I would say, sir, there's no reason for profanity here. In order for me to help you, I would need to get some information. If you're not willing to give this to me now, maybe you can call at a later time, or I can give you a call at some later time, but I cannot continue having this conversation in this manner. I'm going to have to hang up. Okay. So this is the way I train my virtual assistants, but you decide what works best for you and your business. Okay, let's go. I can talk about all of this so much into all so many details. Let's go to the next one. Data entry. Same thing. While you have a person on the interview, I would ask them to share their screen. I would ideally have the task ready, have maybe an SOP, or have something like, how they can enter some data in a spreadsheet. And I would ask them to share their screen, and I would watch how they handle that, how much time it takes, what their logic is like, what they think, what are the steps they're taking, and so on. So super simple here to test how they enter data, especially if you have a website. I wouldn't, you don't want to give them access to the website just yet, but just something like a database or a spreadsheet or something, just to see how fast they move. One thing that I'm looking for especially if a person is working as data entry, if they don't know simple shortcuts like Control C, Control V, or Command C, Command V, then they will be wasting a lot of time. So if you need data entry, if you're still like inserting something and right-clicking and click copy and then put it somewhere else and right-clicking and choose paste, it's a couple of seconds, but it adds up during the day, and it actually shows me that person is not efficient or doesn't know how to be more efficient. So little things like that you can monitor and you can see when you ask the VA to share their screen and go through the process during the interview. It doesn't need to be an additional time, or anything like that. It's just during the interview, during this time, let's see if you're the right fit for me. Next one is graphic design. If you have a brand book, it would be very good here to share your brand colors, your brand, what you stand for as a brand with a virtual assistant, again, during the interview, and ask them how they would, or maybe show them a picture of something that's not according to your brand and ask them how they would tweak it with a brand, how they would align it with the brand's design. Another thing you can do is offline, you can ask them to actually give you an example of their work. So maybe what kind of aesthetic they would have if they were to design a flyer for you. And there's so many templates available right now. They don't have to create anything from scratch. So it should not take a virtual assistant a very long time to create that for you. So definitely test that. You see the aesthetic, you see how long it took, you see if it's aligned with your brand, and so on. One thing that we learned in our company is, even though you might think, oh, virtual assistant is so affordable because it's much more affordable than hiring someone in the States, that's not always the case. Because if I can hire someone in the States at twice the price, but they get the work done in 1 hour, this is cheaper than me hiring a virtual assistant who takes the whole day for the exact same thing. Eventually, when I put the money amount, it's going to be more expensive to have a virtual assistant on board if they're not efficient. So when I give a task to a virtual assistant, even if it's offline or during the interview process, I want to see how fast they're moving on how fast they can deliver the result, because that will tell me if I'm overpaying for the service or if I may be better off hiring someone local here in the States who can work faster. But chances are, it's humans we're talking about. The chances are you can find a great virtual assistant, just not this virtual assistant who takes the whole day, but you can find someone else who is efficient and who works fast. So definitely test that knowledge as well. Next one is bookkeeping. Provide a small set of different bookkeeping transactions and ask them to record them in a bookkeeping software or in a spreadsheet. A spreadsheet is fine. Maybe they already have a bookkeeping software they can use for examples. But just, again, notice their logic, notice how they're doing this, notice the accuracy, and make sure they don't make mistakes. Because when you hire a bookkeeper, you need someone who is very attentive to details, and you need somebody who is very accurate in their work. And here, it's not speed that counts. You don't want somebody taking the whole day, but you don't want somebody to rush through the job. You want somebody to do it once and maybe check for accuracy again, look at what you gave them, and again see what they put, just to make sure that what you gave them matches what they put, or the data information that they put in their system. So that's how I would check for bookkeeping. Number 9 is project management. So project management, you give them a hypothetical situation. You say, hey, let's say we're working on this project. We're working on putting together this retreat for couples. How would you do that? How would you do this? How would you organize this? Where would you keep information? What kind of milestones do you think you would put? How many people do you need under your team? How would you keep them accountable? And so on. I want a virtual assistant to be like, okay, so you're looking to put together a retreat. All right, we're going to keep track of that in Asana. So we're going to have the retreat right here. We're going to break it down into milestones. So we know the deadline when we need to have the retreat, when it's going to happen. We're going to break it down into milestones. When do we need to have the landing page done by? And when do we need to have the payment option available? When do we need to have people by? How do we invite those people? What channels do we advertise this retreat on? And so on. So if someone is a project manager, they have to think about everything. They have to think about marketing. They have to think about sales. They have to think about all of these details. So when you give them a hypothetical situation, if they tell me just something very flat, like, well, I will delegate this to a team. Again, go deeper. What do you mean? How? Who? What team? How many people do you need? How much in advance will you delegate it by? And usually I don't like to spoon feed questions like that. I want them to tell me what needs to happen, because I am hiring someone who might be better than me. If I'm hiring someone, there's usually for 2 reasons. One, maybe I'm overwhelmed, but I'm super good at this. But it doesn't need to be on my plate. In which case I will train you. I will tell you exactly what needs to happen. Or 2, I'm not good at this and I'm relying on an expert. In that case, you as the expert, you better tell me more details than what I already know. No, you tell me the tools, you tell me the systems, you tell me the deadlines and everything I need to know because I'm not the expert. And that's something you can test when you're hiring a project manager. Last but not least is research. We have a lot of people who hire virtual assistants for research projects. So how do you test that? If people say, oh, I've done research, it doesn't mean a lot. I need to see how you would do research for me. Same thing, you probably got the idea by now. 2 ways you can do it. Number one, have them share their screen and give them a task. Something like, I want you to find all the hair salons in the Miami area. And you kind of see how they find it. Do they run a search on Google? Do they, what is their logic? Ideally, not ideally, but one way that you can look through that would be acceptable for me is if they go to Google Maps and they use the data scraping tools and they can put together the hair salons and everything in the area. That's one way they can do it. There's a lot of tools for data scraping. There's a lot of available options for them out there. So I want to see how they would solve this problem. So that's one way you can do this. You can ask them to share the screen so you can follow their process. Or number two, again, you can ask them something off the interview when you're done with the interview and say, I need to have a research on this and just send it to me in a report by the end of the workday. So here's a couple of things that I want to see. A lot of times people will not comply with this. So that's okay. You didn't spend more time with the wrong person. If people don't perform a test, then I'm not mad at this. I mean, it is a little bit of wasted time to interview them and to get them to this point, but I'm just glad I'm not wasting any more time in the process. But people who do complete the test, you want to see what kind of report they're giving you. They have to understand the report they give you has to be short, snappy, to the point, maybe communicate in bullet points and so on. And also notice when they give it to you. I don't want something to be given to me very fast, but also not at the very last minute of the workday. So something has to be reasonable. Now, let me tell you an example. I always throw curveballs to my team, and I needed somebody to do research for me for one of the projects I'm working on currently. And I tasked 3 people on my team. I said, hey, this is what I need, and this is how, this is the why, this is what I need, and just kind of do your best what kind of research you can give me. One person, I chose the 3 people that I think have potential to maybe have additional tasks. So one person gave me something very fast within an hour, but it was so superficial. It was not, it wasn't exactly what I needed. And it was very superficial, didn't have an idea of didn't ask me questions, didn't have an idea of what I needed. So like, okay, well, you're great at what you're doing in your current role, but you're not ready for the next task. If you want to grow, you're just not ready for that. So good. The second person took maybe half a day and she sent me some good information, but I was like, it's a lot of work for me. It's a lot of work. It's like, okay, this is a good platform who they did a competitor analysis, and I had to go through that competitor analysis and I had to dig down and find more information. It was just a lot more work on my plate. Again, didn't make it easy for me. The third person, well, she's kind of in line with what she's working on anyways in this area, but she gave me exactly what I needed. Like, this is what you're going to do. This is the plan. You do this and this and that. These are specific, these are other things that other people are doing. This is an example. This is an example. This is an example. This is an example. These are the hashtags you can use. This is what you can use. It was so spot on. And this is, the kind of, even though it took longer, but it was so insightful and so good and so organized. Bullet points, very organized. And I realized, okay, no, you definitely are the right person for this. So why am I saying all of this, all that information in this long story? Is because when you hire a virtual assistant to do research, don't just notice at how fast they're giving it back to you, but what kind of information they give it back to you. Is the information readable? Is the report concise? Is it exactly to the point? Is it exactly what you need? Or is it giving you more homework or putting more work on your plate? Or is it just very superficial and not interesting at all? And here's the thing that I noticed. A true expert wouldn't mind showcasing their ability. So after we gave you all of these 10 tests, you can use them for different things. Now, there are other things you can use for virtual assistant, but one thing stays true. If someone is really an expert, they wouldn't mind showcasing their ability. Even me, look, I worked in sales for a long time. If someone told me, hey, we're going to have a role play on sales, I'd be like, all right, let's do it. Okay? Or if they ask me what sales strategies I use, I will tell them. What sales books I read, I will tell them. What podcasts I'm watching, I will tell them. So when you're hiring an expert, these are people who grow on their skills. If they really are masters of their craft, they will tell you what they do to hone that craft. and they wouldn't mind telling you this. So if you don't want to give people all of these tests, you can just ask them, what books are you reading in this area? Who do you like to follow? Why do you like that person? What do you grow from that? What podcasts do you listen to? All of that information will still give you a good baseline to know whether this virtual assistant or this employee is good enough for you. This was probably a long episode, but I hope you found a lot of good value here. And remember, do not hire anyone before you test what they can do for you. And keep it reasonable. If it's going to take significant amount of time for the virtual assistant, pay them for their time. Unfortunately, a lot of virtual assistants are scammed by people, which is very bad. And a lot of talented people, are weary of working for free, which is completely understandable. So be reasonable, be fair, have integrity, and just, you work with people, and those people have families, and they need to provide for them, and it's respect, it's mutual respect. And I promise you, when you find the right person, it makes the world. It just makes the biggest difference ever. So I love working with virtual assistants, and I'm sharing with you how I am finding the top talent, and hopefully you can do the same. As always, we can help you find top talent. So if you're looking to work with an agency that has good integrity and has a lot of good success stories, just amazing success stories with how virtual assistant help companies, make sure to reach out to us. I will leave all the information in the description. And I look forward to talking to you next time. See ya.